Today we have a real stalwart. It's a privilege to host Sri Ashish Chauhan, the MD and CEO of the National Stock Exchange of India.
It was the first public digital infrastructure of India. It was the first fintech of India, say 1992, where India was. And what happened at NSE was truly path-breaking.
When NSE started in 1990s, it took probably like 12, 14 years to get to the first 1 crore registered users. Now you have more than 24 crores users. And in tier 1, 2, 3, it's just been, I think, growing across the board. What do you think were the sort of core drivers for making this happen? And where is this going next? And maybe even where India is going in the next 25 years?
When NSE started, probably it was the market capitalization of India was probably 1/5 of banking system size of India. In 30 years' time, now the market capitalization of India is almost 150, 160% the size of the banking system.
What would be advice to young people who are just coming into the workforce, who are trying to become successful?
I never had work-life balance. People say that you have to have a career path. I went zigzag. Good things about engineering books are that broadly they are correct, unlike management books.
Welcome to another episode of Angel Bold Conversations, where we have bold conversations with stalwarts. And today we have a real stalwart. It's a privilege to host Sri Ashish Chauhan, the MD and CEO of the National Stock Exchange of India, and to be having this conversation right here in this beautiful hall in NSE. He's a technocrat from IIT Bombay and IIM Calcutta and was part of the founding team at NSE. He's credited with setting up first screen-based trading in India, mobile trading, mutual fund distributions to exchanges, markets for SME shares, satellite telecom, the Nifty index, derivatives trading, and many other modern developments in the Indian stock markets. We are deeply honored to have you, sir, today at ABC Angel Board Conversations. Again, thank you so much for being here. You've literally helped create this ecosystem and many financial institutions. Now, a lot of this was created from scratch. There was no blueprint around. How did you manage this? And give us a sense of some of the backstories, which, a lot of us may not have heard behind it. Like what kind of war rooms, what kind of backstories are there? When we were just talking just in the lounge and you said, look, you're going from crisis to crisis, there's a lot happening. Give us a sense of what's happening behind the scenes.
This was the first public digital infrastructure of India. This was the first fintech of India and many things. So I recall in my own bank where I joined the job after IIM, there were hardly anyone using the computer. My bank was the largest financial institution of India those days, so called IDBI. It had bought 1,000 computers, PCs, and it was like very large, Modi Olivetti. And it used to have this white plastic cover, and nobody actually even took it out literally, right? But everyone will go down to the ground floor and start shouting against computerization that will take our jobs, right? So in that context, the government of India, after Rashad Mehta scam, decided that you will have a new exchange which will not be owned by stockbrokers, but it will be owned by institutions. It will give a fair treatment to brokers and, of course, investors and companies, all three different sort of stakeholders. But they also said it will be computerized. And there are committees set up and all. But naturally, to write a word saying computerized doesn't mean you've gone through all the implications of that. And that's how, when IDBI was told to lead that project, they created a team of 5 people. Most of them had worked in setting up SEBI before. SEBI was also created by IDBI. And so they had come back to NSE and to IDBI, and then they were put on this project later on. At some point in time, one of them realized that this high-tech project is a pipe dream and it will not work. So the bank was in search of a person who cannot say no. So that was me. And I was like just 1 year into the job. And somehow, when I was a mechanical engineer who had not worked in IT before, and then we started working on how it will look like. We had consultants helping us frame it. And we realized that we can't have computerized exchange, which is nationwide, because we don't have a good telecom system. And there was another exchange set up before us called Over-the-Counter Exchange of India. That was led by ICICI Bank. Those days it was called ICICI, not bank. And so, and it had not done so well. So we were also trying to learn why it didn't do so well and things like that. And so we said if it has to be nationwide, it has to have ability to connect on real time. And if it has to connect on real time, then you need to have telephone lines which connect, and those 64 kilobits per second. Today, All of you are used to doing GBPS
That's right.
on your mobiles, right? Those days, the computers themselves had very little memory, and the 64 kilobits per second line between Worli, where the NSE office was, and to Nariman Point, where most brokers in the fort area would cost you 4 lakh per annum, which was very large those days.
Yes.
4 lakh,
Inflation
was
it is very large.
4 crores of
Yes.
today, right? And so it was very costly to do this, but some of them could afford. We did that and we started with the wholesale debt market, which is where the Ashish Mehta scam was. And then later on, within few months, my boss decided to go with equities. And then on November 394, we started with equities, which was a Diwali day. But in between, we had planned for a satellite telecom network, which will cover the entire country. Didn't even know how much it will cost. We were not given the normal frequency bandwidth, which is used by normal commercial people. And so we had to get it developed, and they were sure that this is not going to work. So they were putting us into a corner and things like that. So we have gone through so many different ways and so many naysayers. Actually, there was very little opposition because nobody knew what's happening and everyone was sure this is not going to work. When you do it in that context that nothing is going to work, if something works, it becomes a miracle, right? That is where the difference between, say, 1992, 93 and today is that today Indian population expect technology to work, things to happen. But this was like the first public experiment on a large scale connecting the entire country. And then once it became successful, then the banks became automated because then they could connect and also ATM started coming up and many more other things happened. But I had to literally learn IT from hardware to laying cables to doing multiplexing, to do satellite telecom design or wireless telecom designs myself by reading books.
Oh, wow.
And good things about engineering books are that broadly they are correct, unlike management books, right? So that is the lesson which I learned, that when you are reading them sincerely and actually do what is written there and understand, most probably what you do will actually work.
When NSE started in 1990s, it took probably like 12, 14 years to get to the first 1 crore registered users. Now you have more than 24 crores users. And in tier 1, 2, 3, it's just been, I think, growing across the board. Now, what do you think were the sort of core drivers for making this happen? And where is this going next? And maybe even where India is going in the next 25 years?
In a stock exchange to be successful, it requires, of course, very large number of investors, number of companies, the regulatory structure. And what we provide is basically on one side regulatory structure, but other side ability to transaction processing framework and all. Give you a perspective that first it was saying the pricing is the issue. That people who talk on the floor, they shout at each other and somehow they define the price which is not even available to you. Because you buy at 100 on the floor, you go to your office and say, I bought at 102, nobody will be wiser. Then your broker tells the sub-broker in Chandigarh that he has bought at 105, nobody will be aware. Then that sub-broker will tell the customer that he has bought 110, nobody is wiser, right? So that pricing issue was taken care of by having an automated screen-based trading, and that also became nationwide. So you could be in Chandigarh, you could be in Arunachal Pradesh, you could be in Jorhat, Dibrugarh, Salem, wherever, and still you could get the same trade. And if you are in front of the screen, so the entire country became one floor, right? And that was one piece of the puzzle because people thought the pricing issue is large, the transparency comes, fairness comes. But then as soon as we started, we realized that that is not the only issue. We had an issue of settlements, that we had physical share certificates. We had to open 4 different clearing houses: Chennai, Calcutta, Mumbai, and Delhi. And every week, we used to do weekly settlements. And every week, we had to fly in.
Just driving in.
Fly in the physical share.
That's right.
Worth thousands of crores from, and it could have been burnt, it could have been stolen and all. And I recall one incident where we had a clearing house next to BSE actually.
Yeah.
Because physical shares, why would people bring to Worli?
That's right.
So we had smartly kept it at Mumbai Chetna. If you have seen Chetna restaurant at Kala Ghoda, just next to that, we had a clearing house. It had a mezzanine floor and a vault which we had created. And one day, somebody complained, probably the competition. The mezzanine floor was supposed to be irregular, so BMC came without notice and broke it.
Oh.
And we had clearing going on, and then I got a call. I rushed from Worli to Kala Ghoda, and all of us had those handkerchief on our nose and started working because it was all a lot of dust and all. We had to sort of rescue the certificates.
Oh my goodness.
And then we had to figure out now what to do with the clearing settlement, because if you don't do clearing settlement, you can't do trading, right?
Right.
So somehow we called up one of the directors. He organized a place in Lower Parel, which is where HDFC Bank's ATM is there, just outside Kamla Mills. So that was a place. They had a small ATM related building there. It was like probably few hundred square feet. That became our temporary clearing house.
Wow.
For probably a year or so. And things like that. And so at some point we started getting fake certificates. One time we got like 40 crore of fake certificates. 40 crore of those days, like very large, right? And so we went after the broker who was introducing. He was himself introducing. And then we sent him to jail. And he said, okay, sir, you are putting me into this, but I'll come back tomorrow. Then what will happen to you? All right. So all sorts of, we used to get threats of people thinking that their livelihood will go away and things like that. So it was a lot of things when you try to change. And then we had to set up clearing house, clearing corporation to guarantee trades, because there was some MS shoes related situation where default happened and all. So we went from like one crisis into another to another and kept on evolving faster. We created depository, NSDL was created, law was passed for the depositories. And again, world was having the, what we call immobilization of certificates, like even America. Even probably today, they don't have, they have a physical certificate, only one probably, but it's there in DTCC. Whereas, and even Europe was an immobilization of certificates. We were going straight away into dematerialization. Right? So we took decisions which may look very visionary those days, but they were also decisions of convenience. Ki boss, रखेंगे कि इतना सर्टिफिकेट्स आएगा. And stock holding corporation was supposed to be original depository. It was set up before even NSE was set
Actually,
up.
I feel like it seems very straightforward when you say it like this. But when the wheel was not invented, now it seems very straightforward. Yes, of
very
course, we are the
chaotic.
wheel.
It was very chaotic.
But broaden the horizon further, because I know I've heard this story from you of, how India came about, and that's like a longer story. So some, if you get a chance ever with Ashish Bhai, do ask him that story and how it connects. But what is the future looking like 2050, 25 years from now? Where do you see India being? You wrote this article about, India benefiting a lot out of AI and doing well. Where do you see it in 2050?
Why do societies come up or go down? Societies come up or go down because of technology, because of adoption to technology. The technology is the only change that happens in the world. And the societies surround them or kind of fall around them. Each of the societies may have different structures. Some societies might be more egalitarian, some societies might be more hierarchy-like. But broadly, the societies which adapt to the new technologies, those societies come up, and the societies which stop doing it, they slowly fall behind. And that's where basically, if you look at it in that perspective, which society can adapt to newer technology is the societies which are younger in age. The societies which become older, those societies have most people who don't want to learn newer things, because when they are so comfortable in their cozy areas that they don't want to learn newer things. So if you look at that young population, technology oriented population, in next 30, 50 years, where are they going to be? And if you look at, say, Japan, the Japan is old.
Average age is 48.
Right? If you come to China,
39, 40.
Right? And they're going to become actually old much faster.
Yes. The policy of one child will also hurt.
And then you come to India, which is going to be younger for next 50 years. But you have more countries next to you, Pakistan and Bangladesh, who are also similarly young, but they are not technology oriented. Because Bangladesh,
why is that so?
In a way, those societies want to live a life which is 1,000-year-old or 1,500-year-old. Right? Now, you can give reasons, but when you have theocratic states, they want to go back to the life which was best and stuff like that. And then you go to Africa, it's younger people, but it's not organized well. You go to Europe, it's very old. right? And similarly, America, this year will have less number of people than last year.
It's getting older. It's 39, 40 is the average.
Right? And they were remaining younger by importing people. Now they don't want to import people. And so for me, if you look at, say, next 30, 50 years, I also have a second hypothesis that technology waves used to come slower. Now they are coming faster. So which means that the life is going to be changing faster and the wealth is going to be created faster. So if the technology waves are coming faster, what used to come in 50 years is now coming in 10 years, then 5 times more wealth will be created in 50 years. And literally in next 50 years, more wealth will be created than what was created in, say, 10,000 years.
Wow.
And if that is so, then which group or which group of people, which country will create more wealth that is young, technology oriented and stuff like that? That's where basically India currently looks to be very good, and it has proved over last 30 years. This is where, 30 years back, if you had asked me, naturally I was not aware of this theory of mine. But even on that theory basis, we are looking very laggard because we are not in technology. Only in last 30 years, we have adopted technology as if everything was invented here. But we did not invent anything. And that's why in AI also, when you ask, my hypothesis was that any new technology that comes, it also gets democratized much faster. That's why it adds that type of wealth and value to the society's productivity, its lifestyle, ways of doing life and stuff. Over last 3 years, it was made out to be a game where America wanted to win desperately. And they said that we are going to capture now 90% of the value. 10% will, the productivity which is coming out extra will be available to the other countries, but 90% will control because we have the computing power, we have the chips getting created, and we have the models which we are alone having. And so we have now created this great magic which will improve the productivity in such a way that humans don't need to work, which in a way may be true, largely not true. But effectively, there'll be a lot of productivity gains. And India clearly was not in the race. The race was between America and China. And 2-3 weeks back, sort of news started coming that Chinese models had become pretty good, and there many of them are open source, open weight, and available to anyone to sort of do things. And I started experimenting, and I realized that the cost of outcome is going down literally 10%, 20% a week.
Absolutely.
Right? It's almost like a mobile phone cost. Every week it goes down in a warehouse,
Yes.
and I had to mark that down at some point. And similarly, so for me, now in last 3-4 weeks, what has happened is it's becoming very clear that 5-6% of the overall productivity gains will be in the
Infrastructure.
compute and the models.
Yeah.
The rest, 93-94% will be with the people who get it useful. And that's where, again, the Indian kind of way of doing things. And that's where I think India, with its young population, technology orientation, quick adoption.
AI is like all the rage now. How do you see it impacting capital markets? Maybe let's say in the next 5 to 10 years, because now you're saying cycles are faster, so I can't talk about 25 years.
Again, if you conceptualize, see, I don't invest. I'm not allowed to invest in stocks, right? Because of my job. But I teach. Again, I tell a very interesting story, or a favorite story of mine is that in Akbar's time, he was the greatest king of his time, and the richest person on earth. And if you wanted to listen to music, what did he do? He had a guy called Tansen, and he had like 20-30 accompanying people. And suppose at 2 in the night, he wanted to listen to good music, he had to call Tansen. Tansen has to wake up, he doesn't have fever, and things like that. And he has to come and start doing it. And he might still be out of Tan. I mean, Tan is Sur, right? So,
yes.
But broadly, the richest person in the world 400-500 years back had to spend enormous amount, and nobody in his kingdom or other kingdom could have afforded that. Now today, the poorest person in India on his mobile has many Tansens living and dead both, wanting to listen anytime. He can do it zero cost, right?
Yeah.
So that richness which Akbar had, already poorest person in India is also sort of enjoying, and many such things which you can see are happening. And that's where AI being a tool, you can create newer business models, newer ways of doing things. And I'm seeing tremendous amount of energy that is going to come in, but it will require even further less capital to start new businesses, and that will scale. And hopefully some of those models, if our people are able to attract also rest of the world to pay for those services, for those experiences and things like that. So that's where you're going to see very, very rapid changes going forward, and the wealth is going to be created there. Because what is wealth, right? It's a conceptual thing. There is, in a way, there is no wealth. But
Depends on how wealthy you feel.
and then also how the society perceives that this is a wealth and this is not a wealth, right? And so first, wealth would have been, say, goats and cows and slaves, right? And then the agriculture came, so the land became larger wealth, and then industries came, so factories became larger wealth. The wealth producing actually increases manifold in a newer technology vis-a-vis the older, and the other part is still now, till say 50 years back, everything was physical, even factories were physical. But now the wealth will be about experience, as I told you about the music.
That's right.
It was physical, Tansen was physical. Now it's your mobile, right? But you think it's Tansen or whoever it is, right? And that's where the experiences is what humans want. And they are going to be more and more experiences, dematerialized
I
experiences.
connected the capital markets to this, yeah.
And that's where the wealth is going to be there, which you cannot touch, feel. I mean, you can experience, but
Yeah.
not like feel, right? In a way, in a different way, right?
But before that, I think there's a ton of innovation. We've built a lot of trust in the capital markets. It's become secure. You talked about, how there are no certificates. You have to carry those certificates. What is the next frontier for innovation and regulation, perhaps in India?
In a way, last 30 years, when NSE started, probably it was the market capitalization of India was probably 1/5 of banking system size of India. In 30 years' time, now the market capitalization of India is almost 150, 160% the size of the banking system. So people have started trusting the market framework more. And so in a way, you can say last 30 years, you've done a good job as regulator, SEBI, as parliament, as courts, as stock markets. This market has come where 20-25% of all households in India are investing whatever little sort of hard-earned money they have into the stocks. Is a what I call a brilliant place to begin next 30, 40, 50 years.
So you see this continue to go for next 30, 40.
For me, if India grows in next 50 years, which I have no doubt about,
Yeah, yeah.
it will grow on the back of NSE.
No, that's awesome. I want to live as much as I can to see it. I want to go into, talking of life, just want to go into personal advice and learnings. Now, you've talked about going from crisis to crisis. You've talked about being very steady, stable in hard times. You must have made lots of difficult decisions. Perhaps some decisions went bad as well. Do you have a mental framework that you use? So when you're making a decision, you say, hey, this is how one should think about it. If I have two options in front of me, what do I do? Do you use certain mental frameworks? How do you think about decisions?
So I used to run this cricket team called Mumbai
Mumbai
Indians. Yeah, I started up. So first year we are just running helter skelter.
Are you still like engaged with them?
Not much now. I mean, of course, I watch all the matches, even gully matches. So I'm more an avid watcher now. First year we were all running helter skelter just to organize the matches and all. So I didn't travel with the teams to other parts of India. But second year we were told to go to South Africa to gather with the team, right? I mean, I was the CEO and the players and the managers and all, right? And so Sachin is around 5 years younger to me. We would sit together most days because I was like an uncle to the team, right? And so you want to control them, you don't want them to be awake through the night and stuff like that, right? And not mingle with stupid people and things like that, right? So one night I told him, and both our children used to be in the same school. His son was slightly elder to my son. And so I asked him that you go to the cricket pitch and you are having in your mind that your son has a fever or your daughter is in hospital. How are you able to concentrate, right? So he said, Ashish, my issue is that the ball doesn't know anything. So when I get into that rope, when after that rope, when you go with the bat, you forget everything and you play each ball on its merit. You don't have any preconceived notions that I had solved this, I had done it this way, that way.
Yeah.
You have to basically play each ball the way it comes. And then it occurred to me that that is the only way to live. Because if you had solved something earlier and if you said this is the way to solve it, when the similar situation comes next time, you think it's similar, it may be very different circumstances and others, right? And so you have to again play that on the merit of the ball, right? So
So each time you have to understand the details and play it on
And
the
then
merit.
if you do it on a preconceived like thumb rules and other things, then broadly you're going to miss the point.
You've talked about a lot of the capital markets creating wealth. What are your thoughts on introducing investment and capital markets education as part of a formal curriculum in India, like managing your finances? Like, should that be a course in formal curriculum?
Absolutely. In fact, I always believe that we teach students a lot: physics, geography, maths, literally things which in a way don't affect them everyday life, but we don't teach them life skills.
Yeah.
How to behave, how to pack your bag, how to just have a good bath, right? We don't teach them. And having a concept of a budget, every household, and how to spend, where to take loans from in case you need to take, where to invest, how to invest, we don't teach them. And that is, I think, in a way, a lacuna in our system. And we are working with NCRT, with various universities. Last year, I launched with government of Karnataka in government-owned universities one sort of voluntary course on financial markets and things like that. So I think all of us have a duty, but not to teach them how to speculate. For me,
That's right.
that's basically you're taking them on wrong path because you want to do it for your benefit. That is not correct. You need to teach them how to budget, how to plan, once you have money, how to use it and things like that, right? And then savings and investments, and then all the other nitty-gritties of financial markets comes, right?
In the modern world, what would you recommend to people? What would you advise to young people who are just coming into the workforce, who are trying to become successful?
Sometimes when you're young, you make up your mind that life should be like this, but life is ever changing, right? So idea is, if you have a lifelong learning ability, if you can train your mind to add value every day to yourself in something, some knowledge, some ways of life, if you can continue to have curiosity and not have preconceived notion, whatever comes your way, people say you have to have work-life balance. I never had work-life balance. People say that you have to have a career path. I went zigzag. I never went through one single way of doing things, right? Even in the same company, I got 10 things to manage. And so in some ways, if you can take responsibility, you can solve people's problem. Because one thing I have figured after all this is that creation of problems is what the world does. But very few people can give solutions.
Yeah.
And if you're able to give solution, not talk about it, but give actual solutions, do it finally physically implement, then you will be required. You may not become the CEO, because most times people who give solutions remain down only because the people who talk go up.
If CEOs clearly don't do anything.
Right? So that's how I say that if you can do sort of provide solutions, you will have a place in life,
Yes.
in the society. And that is the best place in life, right? And of course, your own skills might become outdated very soon. So you need to keep on adding value, experiment with newer things, and hopefully you will have a very fulfilling life.
That's a great message for everybody here. The great message to end on. Learn, lifelong learner, be curious, and actually create real solutions versus just talking about it. Thank you so much, Ashish bhai. I personally enjoyed this. We have a small memento for you that we'd love to sort of at least give you so we can remember this,
Thank
this
you.
conversation. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you again for hosting us here and for this fantastic conversation. I learned a bunch from that. Thank you so much.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.